Jungle.
Good evening and welcome to the first and I suppose inaugural episode of Talk and Drive, the podcast for the community of Just an Average Sim Racer. Completely unscripted, completely underprepared, completely just off the cuff. This is the first one that's going to be more of an introduction to what the podcast is going to be. It's been, I say, a year in the planning because it's pretty much a year since I thought maybe it might not be a bad idea to do a podcast, whether with myself or fellow members of the community. But as you can see, we're not in a sim racing thing because Talk and Drive is all about Just an Average Sim Racer, but we're not in, not in a sim racing sim. It's designed to be more of a talky kind of thing. So what can you do when you're talking? We'll just fly around. And there'll be other games that I'll do in the background while we're talking about podcasts, because obviously mainly it's an audio thing, because podcasts are designed to be listened to, so not necessarily about what you see. It's obviously get uploaded to YouTube and other associated things to go with that. Just because, why not? So before tonight, I'll do a bit of flight sim. I'm not any good at flight sim. I just like to just fly around and do interesting things, and just talk about what to expect from the upcoming podcast series, whether it be weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, yearly, who knows how many we get to chance to do, but I hope to be a regular thing. Knock up a quick hour here or there, see how we go. So it's just literally me talking absolute nonsense, probably for the best part of 60 minutes. And if you're wondering who me is, my name's Kev. I am the owner. Does that kind of work? Yeah. One of many people who contribute to the average racing community, mainly on Discord and through iRacing, Assetto Corsa, and the like. One of many genius minds, and of a varied group of people who love to race. There will be links to the Discord, who are welcome to come and join, whether we do iRacing, Assetto Corsa. We might even do Automobilista 2. We might even do R-Factor 2. We might even do Le Mans Ultimate. Well, probably not that one. But there's always something that we like to try and do. And also just hang out and chat with our mates and see what's going on. And go with the flow. Now, I've never actually recorded Flight Sim on OBS. So I have no idea how this is actually going to look for everybody. But, we'll give it a go. And there it is. It is the average sim racer jet. It is Learjet 40. Because, well, why not? Let's do something different. Let's make it look good. Let's make it look like a team plane. Flying our team to many different racetracks around the world. Just rolling onto the runway automatically, which I did not know it did that without me doing it. I'm pretty sure I asked the sim to load me into a gate, but, oh well, it hasn't. I'm not complaining. I've never actually seen this before, to be fair. Okay, well, so what's the podcast all about? This is an introduction one. So we race iRacing, so of course, as mentioned already, on a few different occasions. But iRacing is the bread and butter of what we do as a sim. We have a varied group of people from iRatings, from 1,000 all the way up to over 3,000, and all willing to race and work with each other, because that's what we do. It's a community to be safe with, it's a community to be sensible with, but also to have an almightily good laugh. Because without that, why bother? To put it simply, why bother having the community? And I joined sim racing just to have that kind of environment to be in, and to find like-minded individuals and race with like-minded individuals, because it can be a lonely place to start with sim racing. Because who do you race with? Who don't you race with? I mean, that's what it comes down to. Who do you want to race with? Who do you not want to race with? How easy to find people of the same skill level. And it seems like Discord is the way to do it. You'll meet people on track in iRacing and have a conversation in line chat and just go, well, how do I do this? How do I make this work for me? The answer is you've got to make it work for yourself. But there is ways. There's ways. And this is what I had in mind when I set up Just Average Sim Racer as a YouTube channel and Twitch channel many years ago. As it was 5 years ago, actually. I've been doing this as a Sim Racer streamer. And it's kind of one of those things where you never quite know how to do it or what to expect or what you want to do. I certainly didn't. I just kind of just absolutely winged it hard. To see how we go. Because sometimes you just don't know. This is the thing. It's one of those things where you kind of just have to suck it up and see. So, as an introductory podcast, it's not about that. That's why Just Average Sim Racer exists. It's a community to bring people together, have a laugh, and just hang out. There's many things we do on our channel that are hangout places, and that was a bumpy takeoff. My stick is playing up. It will do that sometimes. That's more of a trim thing. That's my stick playing up. Keeps doing that. It wants them to nosedive. It would take off from East Midlands Airport. There it is, one of my favourite racetracks around, which is Donington Park. As we fly over it, look at that, nicely modelled, apart from that big bit of track in the road there. Really good race course. Okay. So I've got to keep my stick held back quite a bit here. What I'll do is I'll just unplug that for now. I'll plug it back in. Yeah. Almost screwing up. And trying to do a podcast and talk about what you're not doing. It's actually quite hard because I don't want to talk about the flight side of it. So yeah, sim racing community. It's what it's all about. It's all about doing that as a community and being the sensible thing of life. It's so. What do we like to race? So we like to race anything from GT3s, Mazdas, Formula Vs, GTPs, LMP2s have become a very regular thing. So it's all very nice and easy cars, to learn to drive and to enjoy ourselves with. But we're not just about the. How do I explain how I do this? It's not just about driving cars as fast as we can. It's about driving safely, understanding and learning as well. Because we've had a number of people who come into us who don't understand the particular aspects of road racing, oval racing and all that stuff, and actually learn how to do it through members of the community and just work it out from each other, which is really good to have. And everyone is wanting to help each other, which is exactly what you want to have as a community. If people don't have that, then you kind of wonder why you do it. But we do it because we love it. And that's why. Ultimately, anyway, one of the reasons why we do it. So, I use the word "so" a lot. And what I hope to do with this podcast going forward is bring a few of the guys in. We can have a bit of a laugh with each other. Talk about things about sim racing. Talk about the things that make us tick as sim racing. What makes us tick? What makes me tick in terms of racing aspect is touring cars. Big passion of mine. A very British orientated kind of series of cars, and I've really loved them for the 2 years that they've been running on iRacing. I find I've found my niche, and I think that's important if you finding sim racing for the first time. is what makes you tick. Find a series that really makes it work for you and makes you enjoy it. It's not about what everyone else enjoys, because it's easy to get bogged down by everyone else's individual kind of series and all that stuff. You know, people want to do what you want them to do, and when you find something that works for you, you go with that. And I think you follow that. That's the best bit of advice I'd give people. This is not about advice. This is, you know, personal kind of feelings as I talk about it. So, what do I see this podcast going? What do I see this podcast doing? I have no idea. As I say, I mentioned, bring on a few people, have a chat about stuff. We talk about maybe what's going on, how the week's gone for us as a racing community, individual racing. What's coming up for us, what's things to look out for, maybe a little bit of advice is thrown in there. Some guys who understand the cars can throw their 10 pence in there of what things can be done, what do we like about updates, what do we want to see from iRacing, and also other things. It's not just about iRacing. The majority of it, because that's what we spend most of our time and money on, because why don't we? But the majority of it, it's going to be unscripted. It's going to be all of that stuff that just makes it sensible for everyone, really. As I mentioned, my big love in iRacing is touring cars. Probably a tough car to drive fast for people who don't understand front-wheel drive. I've been fortunate to have driven it in other sim or classic car or similar classic cars in other sims. So there's in essence, I've been able to bring over and people understand what makes those cars tick. But also, I'd go back to just 2 years ago and regale what made it tick for me, which is kind of why it would tie in nicely to what we're looking at on the screen now. Obviously, iRacing is an American-based thing, but I do have a vested interest in British tracks, it seems, and also worldwide tracks, but we'll focus on the British aspect, which is why we're focusing on touring cars all of a sudden. So when they brought the TCRs out, only one existed, which was the Audi NMS, which I think was from like 2018, so very outdated and still technically is outdated. And they made an investment to bring in TCRs, not BTCC to get it confused, because everyone loves calling them BTCC, and I made that mistake initially, not fully understanding that obviously there is a TCR and a BTCC. BTCC is British Touring Car Championship, which is a very different class of TCR cars. I mean, there's similarities absolutely, but they do things their own way, just to make it probably more entertaining. But there's no cross compatibility with what they do to what is raced in the TCR classes worldwide as well. So instead of TCRs coming in, so they brought in a Honda Civic Type R and the Elantra to go with the Audi, and all of a sudden there is a class of cars, a section of just competing straight away with it all, and that's great. That's exactly what you want to have. You want to have a class of cars automatically bolstered to go out Knock Hill, another great British circuit, coming to the network to go along with obviously Donington, Silverstone. You had Alton Park, Brands Hatch. So there's already a good selection of British tracks in iRacing. So you can kind of see where the appeal is already going with TCRs. But I remember approaching this, I think at the time I was only a 1300 iRacing driver. Because I was doing bits and bobs here. I hadn't really found a series that worked for me. And there's not always going to be a series I did Porsche Cup, I did GTE racing, I did there's another series I did quite a lot of, but I can't remember what it was. Tin Tops. I did all sorts. I never really never found that niche. Then the touring cars, they landed, and the niche was there, and that just worked. There was something about the TCRs that just clicked. Once you kind of worked out how to drive them hard and drive them fast, you automatically was on the pace, and I quickly shot up on the I ratings. And the skill level is not about I rating. It's a marker within the sim for people who live on the sim, but it's not a marker. But for me, it had to be a marker because I wanted to measure my improvement compared to anyone else's improvement as well. Which is one of those things that you want people to understand what your marker is, and respect you on track as well. Because people do. They look at the I rating and they go, "Okay, this guy's good. I can use him as a marker." And that marker, as I say, marker is important to everyone else, I think, as well. So, how did I get better in TCRs? Practice. Obviously, having a basic fundamental of how the cars operated was important, but actually working them out and making them how they needed to be, I think, was very important for me. But putting in serious hours, serious laps, repeating, and getting better at it was one of those things. And I did that. I think I raced them pretty much a solitary for the best part of a year, I'd say. I think, okay, yeah, it was about a year. Yeah, it was a year. And I think, okay, well, I got better. My I rating jumped up. I think it got to around 1,800 to almost 2,000 at times. Fluctuated in there and then, running second split and top split occasionally. Nothing fancy, but it's always one of those things of pushing yourself to the limit. And was I pushing myself hard? Absolutely, because there were faster guys racing, which meant I got faster running them on a regular basis. And it is just repetition, because I'm not. I only do sim racing because I enjoy racing. I'm a motorsports fan. Ironically, I can't drive legally, so I don't drive. But I can drive if I really wanted to. If it came down to it, obviously, yeah. And it's one of those things that people forget is you don't have to be a good driver or a competent driver to learn how to race. It's two very different situations. I've put people in my rig who can legally drive, but they can't drive a race. Their mentality for a race car, because it's taken something to the limit, which is what's tested and driven into you. Racing is about taking a risk and taking something else to the fore, shall we say. So it's one thing racing. It's another thing driving. So yeah. So many laps of practice, many laps of testing and measuring and stuff. This is before I discovered something like Garage 61 as well. They're things I'll go into another podcast. The tools of the trade. This is just the introduction, shall we speak. Excuse me. Now, one of the key things about sim racing, and touch on it, it's you put in as much as you want and you get as much as you want out of it. It's not about having the best gear. It's not about having direct drives and load cells. They contribute to getting better, but it's not about them being the best. No, it's not about them making you the best, because there's guys that race with us on a regular basis who do not have the best gear. I mean, some of them have just got good gear, which makes them even better. Darn you bastards. On a serious note, it's not about having the best gear at all. It really isn't. But they do contribute, definitely, for sure. there comes a point where you go, okay, I've been driving this series. What's the next step, and what, am I getting better? I think the only way you really get better is by racing with like-minded people, and those like-minded people are people like who run leagues. Generally, the quality of racing in leagues is a lot higher. So you've got, for example, the league that I run in regularly is called the SRL leagues, sim racing leagues. That's pretty much what it's called. The guys there, I found them by an advert. People post that in Facebook groups, Reddit groups, all of those kind of things. Because why wouldn't you? And you end up challenging off. I'm always very truthful about this. I went into that exceptionally cocky in my head, not outwardly cocky, thinking I've done all right in the official series. I've got wins, I've competed, I've got pole positions. I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to go and test myself. How do you test yourself? Well, the answer is not to go in and think you're going to win, as I discovered, because I thought, not knowing any of these guys I race with, and I hadn't come across any either in official series. And that was again another baptism of fire for myself. Was assuming that the same people that race officials are the same people that also race leagues. How wrong was I? So obviously racing is. I remember rocking up to this first race. It was Red Bull Ring, and having my ass handed to me on a plate by these boys. Absolutely handed to me. That was something else. That really was. Because I had no idea what to expect from any of that. Or from any of them, to be honest. But these boys were something else. And I quickly knew, in order for me to get better in any racing, I need to watch the best. I need to watch these guys. I need to practice with them. I need to learn of them. And just understand what makes them tick and makes them become better racers. Because ultimately, these guys just. I remember one guy rocking up, and everyone said he was a brain surgeon, so he probably was, and being ridiculously fast. I'm thinking, how has he done this? How has he just rocked up and just destroyed the opposition? I don't know how, because he is just insanely fast and naturally fast. And that's the differential between some people. I've seen blowouts of people and all those kind of things where someone's turned up, and someone's gone, oh, do you know what, this person's got a really high I rating, and or low I rating, just rocked up and driven because they just don't do much, and it's not about practice or skill for some people. Some people it absolutely is. Some people are just naturally gifted, and sometimes you just got to accept that and go, this guy is pretty awesome. Do I stand a chance of beating him? Probably not. But I will learn from him. I will understand what makes him tick. I will watch his lines. I will watch his breaking points. I will watch his everything that makes him a better race driver. Because they're the ones who you can learn off. They're not the best racecraft. Some people who are naturally gifted because they don't race often, or so on and so forth. That's one thing that is taught. Some people, I don't think racecraft is a natural talent. Intelligence is natural, but common sense is something that not everyone has. And it's something you have to instill and build into yourself more than anything. It is common sense. More than anything. Because without common sense, you're never going to be a clean racer, a fast racer. And I say fast racer loosely. I mean, it sounds like really pedantic, really pretentious or something, but being a fast racer is not about being quick lap times. It's about surviving a race. It's about driving the track in front of you, driving the conditions in front of you, and making it work for you. Because if you don't have that, then you're not going to finish the race. You're not going to finish race sensibly against those other cars on track or anything like that. That's the important thing that I think a lot of people do forget about in sim racing. It's easy. It's easy to assume that someone fast is someone safe, and you have to teach yourself that to be safe. But to avoid contact on the road or contact everywhere around you, just got to be safe. Because as series I run these days and series I've run in the past, where by rights I should never have been finishing where I finished in a particular race, but I finished it by finishing the race in a higher position than what I was expected, because everyone else was driving like demons. Demons, not necessarily the quickest way. Quickest way to get to hell, absolutely, but not the quickest way to finish the race and get something out of it, to be quite fair. So well, that's my thinking behind it anyway. It's easy to criticise, but yeah. Well, we are looking for something here in the background. So if you're watching this on YouTube, there's a reason why we're flying the way we are on this particular sim, because we will find it. Now, I say loosely, common sense is massively key. Common sense, safety, and the ability to preempt. Again, people can hot lap fast, don't have any other traffic around them or anything like that. That's one thing. That's one thing to for people to consider and take into account. So how does one get better? Is what people say is, it's one thing. How do you get this common sense? How do you get this understanding and this knowledge of racing? Doing more laps. Doing more laps of drivers who are that like-minded. That's where the leagues are. You might have a bit gatekeepery, yes, but there's a reason why they gatekeepery, because they want people to be racing to a level that is conducive to attract people into a league, to give a good environment for people to want to race in. So you usually find, and as I did, the quickest way to earn the respect was by driving safely. I got a couple of warnings in my first couple of races, and ironically, maybe by a new processor, because I quickly realised that my processor wasn't up to the modern constraints of high or big numbers racing in close proximity. One of the best ways I ever did. That's save that for another podcast. But it is all about learning your craft with people around you, and just understanding how to race with a car side by side with you for a whole lap or 3 or 4 laps. There's plenty there to get your head around, and people will have accidents. And this is where the fast guys come in. The fast guys will have accidents because they're pushing the limits, they're pushing the boundaries at every opportunity. Just because that's what they do. And if they're not doing that, then they ain't going fast enough in their head. The ironically of it. Now, track learning. Obviously, iRacing is a particular thing where the tracks change every single week in the official series, and leagues will change their track every single week. So again, this is where preparation comes into key, is finding a combo to learn the car in its entirety. Now, my bit of advice, and it's something I did do a lot of, was finding a combo of car and track, but I could just drive. I could just turn up and just drive, because it felt good. I learned it, I understood it, and it made me more confident about how a car handles. So find a car that you like, find a car that you want to live with, and you're not worried about how it handles. You know, if you can learn its real intricacies and the like. And once you learn that car, drive it to a track. No matter what track it is, but go to a track you enjoy. That's a little bit challenging. And then that way you can test the limits of the car out in that environment while not worrying about everything else going on. That's what test drive's for. Because once you've got that kind of nailed down, you understand how the car drives, you understand how everything else drives. Because that's what you want to have. An innate understanding of your car. There's nothing worse than going into a race or a series and not really knowing what the limits of your car can do because you haven't changed tracks all the time and you haven't put in the laps. Because driving different tracks all the time in practice and not putting enough practice into it, not everyone has the time to, means that you're constantly having to learn the car in an unfamiliar environment. So have a track that you would call your home track that you always go to run laps, to run testing. Mine's Donington Park. I will just run laps at Donington because I enjoy driving Donington. It's my local track. We flew over it the first part of this podcast in Flight Sim. But it's also one that I know. But also it's got many different corners, different configurations, different challenges. You know, it's got everything you need for me personally to work out what I wanted to do in that car. So I could take those skills and apply it. You know, so if I go to a different track, yes, you have to learn the corners, you have to learn the speeds, but you know that car inside out. And that's what I did with the Honda, the TCR, back in the day. It was just a car that I wanted to learn and understood how to learn. Because why not? do, 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 do. I'm just looking at my notes for the next part. Because I say these podcasts are completely unscripted, completely not what you expect. Because you know, at the end of the day, I'm just waffling away and giving my 20 cents. Because my 20 cents may not mean everyone's still on, but they do to some people. Okay. Just looking at my pace notes and trying to find various things in relation to the podcast. Because why not? Why wouldn't we? Excuse me. Now we are looking for something. So if you're watching this podcast, lucky for you. It's a part which goes back to about the TCR things, the things that inspire you as a driver, as a racer. It's one of those things there. So BTCC played an integral part of my fundamental enjoyment of racing. Because why wouldn't it? You know, the tracks are fun, the tracks are enjoyable. Touring car racing is not designed for big GP length layouts of tracks because it's not. And they're the things that people want to do. That people want to, they watch things like Formula One. They think they can jump straight into a Formula car or race any car on a Formula track. And they go, "Oh, guys, this is a boring track." Not every car combo works on every track. Guy in our Discord was quite happy to tell people that because it doesn't. It really doesn't. There's one thing having all the content actually and never using the content in that combo. And I'll talk a little bit back, actually, going back and what a mistake I made when I first got iRacing. I came from Assetto Corsa. I was racing on the SRS platform on there, which, and ironically racing TCR style cars on an AC. Right, which is very good, very well modelled, very detailed, great little things. And I didn't really understand it. I never looked into it at all, what they actually did of how iRacing actually worked. I just picked it up, jumped into the rookie season, because that's all you can do. Race the Mazdas, got out rookies really quickly, run a few races in rookies, and go, yeah, it's all right. And then all of a sudden, that was 1 week. But the tracks kept changing every season. I'm like, okay, this is like every day. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I can live with that. Not realising I'd inadvertently joined at week 13. Massive rookie mistake that was. But that was something I was not aware of. There we go. And I've got myself through rookies, and I remember when all of a sudden season 1 was re-released. I was like, oh, great, a new season, new tracks, all that stuff. Line Rocket just been refreshed that season as well, actually. This is 2019, coming to Christmas. This is my first month on iRacing or so. And I thought, oh, look, a new car was being released. It was the BMW M8. Now, I was a D license at 600 iRacing, as we see Alton Park in its glory there. Another great British touring car circuit. And great British circuit in general. And sidetracking myself again. It's really hard to talk about something that you're not doing, or what you're doing and you don't want to talk about it. And I remember driving this BMW M8 GTE, not knowing anything about the car, not even understanding the fundamentals of driving, really, of iRacing's physics and braking systems and all of that stuff. Because the Mazda's an easy car. It is in comparison. And you kind of go, okay. You kind of go, well, the Mazda's easy. I can drive the Mazda. You know, everyone can drive the Mazda. And you kind of go, I can translate that into another car. Surely. No. Was the answer to that one. And I quickly realised that was one of the worst things I could have done, was buy an M8 GTE. Because no ABS? No ABS. Which obviously a Mazda clearly has. It's obviously slower than a Mazda. But it was a level above my skill level. And I think I started that season with, I think it was 1300 or 1400 iRating, and it went down to 600. My inability to drive that car safely, to understand that car, really hurt me. But do you know what? I stuck at it. And I only stuck at it because in my head, that was a series I had to race on iRacing, because back then I don't think it was explained as comfortably or as sensibly as it should have been. Because I just naturally assumed that that's what we had to do. So yeah, I just ended up doing this series because the new car got released, so you had to drive that series. Or, not that you had to drive that series, it was one of the ones that were recommended to drive, and it was the BMW 12.0 Challenger, 12-minute races every hour. Great fun, a bit like the Ferrari Challenge now. I remember driving that for a season and absolutely hating it, but I felt like I had to do it. I just bought this car. I've got to persevere. I've got a subscription that I just paid for a year. I think it was 2 years at the time. And I just had to persevere and get better and understand it. And I did. I ended up finally just grasping what I had to do to understand the braking system. Back then, I was using a Logitech G920. I didn't have, at that particular time, load cell pedals, so I was using the base pedals and base wheel, and just kind of learning how it all worked together. Which, as it turned out, was never a good thing. But for me, that showed a bit of a resilience in me. I really wanted to learn the car in a much better way. Really work it out to it as much as I never got better at it. I ended up winning a couple of races in it towards the end of that season. Yes, at low I ratings, but it was a way to understand the car and to race the car and for people to race with as well. I still didn't understand it. I still didn't know how. And I finally understood. Well, I understood iRacing at that point, but I was starting to get the feel for it. There was GTE races. There was Formula races. Not many, but there was. And all those kind of things just happen in the background. And I was like, okay, so stuff happens, absolutely. But what stuff is that? How does that translate to me? To understand iRacing, it didn't. I had to learn it all. It was pretty tough learning curve. I wasn't even on Discord then. I wasn't doing anything like that. I was streaming on Facebook actually, which was just one of those crazy things. I actually got quite a few followers on Facebook, and then just stopped streaming on Facebook full time. There was no need to stream on Facebook. I was just thinking about that those days. Yeah, that was a different one. It's a very different audience. So you used to get quite a few views, but yeah, it wasn't the audience for sim racing Facebook. I was missing a bit of YouTube, but YouTube came later. Yeah, so I managed to master this M8. This was the thing. These were series that I didn't really understand. I didn't really know what to race because there was no clear kind of direction for you to drive in. So I just had to learn it. Just had to learn drive what was in front of me, and that continued because then they released a Porsche 9 something, 96. Well, I don't know. It was a GT4 one. It wasn't even a 9, was it? It was that Porsche. It's still there. It's still raced. It was a Porsche Cayman. That's it. And that they got released that. So I mean, yeah, I've got to drive that car. And I remember driving that in the Michelin Pilot Challenge and other events and hating it. I couldn't drive it. I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing wrong here? Why am I just buying a car? Because I thought, and this was the thing that never explained to me, I have a great business practice, or makes me look exceptionally stupid, which is probably the latter. That I had to buy a car just to progress in the sim, progress in the series. If you didn't have that car, then you couldn't do. Back then, they didn't release as many cars. Duh. So I remember doing the Michelin Pilot Challenge and just trying to work out how to drive this car and struggling really hard again. I just couldn't get my bearings right. I couldn't get, how to drive the car. And it's one of those kind of crazy things. It's that when a sim is as detailed as iRacing is, it's a funny one. It is a funny one. What do you think? So let's fiddle around. Just get that up to scratch. It's one of those funny things where you don't really know what to do, and you're just trying to work it out. I think a lot of the time I never did work it out, to be honest. I think I just kind of absolutely wing it, because that's how you do it. just wing it. Just wing it as you go. And I can't remember what it was. It came a point where I kind of went, hold on a second, this is not what I need to be doing. And I think it was just looking at Reddit or something, and someone just exploded out, just find a series that you wanted to race. I didn't have any GT3s at this point. I had GTEs. I had Porsche GT4, the BMW GT4 just come out as well the following season, so I ended up buying that because that felt like the right thing to do. But I kind of was starting to understand how the series worked. I ended up racing Mazdas a bit more because they were safer and more competitive and more conducive to my skill level as well. Because here's one of the things you learn just by doing it and experience. iRacing was about matchmaking in its purest form, and I think it is about very pure in way matchmaking is when the selection of people is big enough. If the selection isn't big enough, when you get put in real mixed bag of splits. It'd be top rated drivers and low rated drivers. And kind of what happens to touring cars. It still does to some extent depending on the track combos. Excuse me. And so I kind of got that kind of grasp of what it was. And Mazda's, being a rookie series, had a much bigger spread of people. This meant you got match made with someone very close to your skill levels, and that instantly boosted your confidence in terms of how that operates and how you should drive the car, and all those things that go with that, because they are important. Confidence is an important thing. Not being cocky, but confidence in how you're racing and your results as well, because you can drive for months and just have a decline in your rating. And when you see a number declining, that naturally makes you feel a bit, oh God, losing interest. So it's important you overcome that more than anything as well, because if you are losing track of what you wanted and wanted to achieve, you might just go, sod it, I'm not doing it anymore. So I found that niche, which was the Mazdas at the time, which gave me the confidence to race with people, also gave me the confidence that my speed was better. And naturally, that confidence and that speed just working better, and the experience of driving the same car quite repeatedly transpires into better times, better speed, better all-round ability on paper. I was also running the endurance series. One thing I discovered was my safety rate was getting better because I was racing with better people, so my safety rate was actually going up. I wasn't getting to as many incidents because of other people's abilities and my lack of knowledge of the car as well. Because if you lack the knowledge of the car, you're more likely to have more crashes, which means your safety rate will also go into impact. But that's a whole nother podcast and talk. I'll probably hope to get Julian onto that one, because he's the master of safety ratings. So it's one thing having all that. It's putting it all together onto the same thought process. So you eventually go through. I was doing two series, complete opposite ends of the scale: GTEs and Mazdas. And that was kind of how it went for a while. Yeah. Just ticked along. Doing the odd races, GTE races was a popular thing of mine. Just really working out how the cars ticked and start to learn the car, start to learn the series. There wasn't really anything that I did a lot of. That would go, you're racing these cars, you're doing this. To really understand iRacing, because there wasn't that, to be quite honest. There really wasn't. And it was all very much just find out how you get on with it, basically. And that was one of those things. So, touring cars. We're going to go full circle here, because we're probably getting to the end of the recording. I have no idea how long I've actually been waffling for, because why would I? It's one thing I don't actually have is a minutes recorder. Why would we? As I move it, it's so like unprepared and unscripted. But I thought it's gonna be good to get one out there and just discuss everything about that I understand and why I got into iRacing, and more of an introduction about what stuff could come up as well in conversations. So yeah, you find this niche, you find this thing that just works for you, and that's what you stick with. But coming back around to full circle TCRs, when TCR was released, the excitement in my brain was another level, because I've been doing GTEs, I've been doing the occasional Formula 3s, and that was it. I hadn't really done much else, but TCRs were the ones I went, now we're talking. Is this a series that really ignites my passion in sim racing more than what it was? Because I enjoyed racing, enjoyed hanging out, and then by this time, before TCRs launched, I'd already had a Discord going, not with many people, but it was there. Guys like Jason, who I owe a lot of debt of support to for the channel from its early days, and helping support the channel, and just being a great guy to hang around with, and a few other guys who happen to be around and meet along the way. But all of a sudden, to running a Discord with 200 plus members and a racing team with 4, 5, maybe sometimes 6 cars potential going out in special event races, because that's what it's about. And that passion has got to be ignited. But touring cars were the things that ignited it back. Really went, I'm going to do this, and this is all I'm going to do. And I made a conscious decision then. 2 years into the service, and that's how long it was. It was the beginning of 22. So just over 2 years on the service, doing bits and bobs, not really having a series. I'd really settled down and gone, I'm going to be the best at this, not series. Or not the best, but one of the best. Or ones that people know about. I think that's more what it is for me, actually. If people know about you, people respect you, people know who you are, and you understand exactly what it's about. And then the DTCRs came out of it, new tracks, new cars. Not Kill was there, and you go, yeah, we can do this. I can put in a significant amount of time into racing this series, and making a good go of it. So we did. So I did. I went at it, and I thought, and I made a conscious decision then to move on to YouTube, and just the growth of the channel and going, how do I get an audience to understand touring cars or to race about touring cars and all of that stuff that goes with that? The answer to that is just do the same thing. Keep it focused, keep it sensible, and just make sure your content's consistent. So I made that conscious decision to go, I'm going to race this car. That's it. This touring car series is all I'm going to race. I'm going to base my system, my iRacing career around a class of cars, and it became my touring car thing, and that did wonders for it and for me. This is why it will never go away from the channel. It became my niche, and I could put in a lot of time into a car to learn it, to get better, and to make it worthwhile. And to go full circle again, that's where we ended up joining the league in 23. Anyway, end of 22, 23 to go, okay, I think I've achieved everything I could possibly achieve in officials. Yes, I'll lose some, I'll win some, I'll have some bad races, etc. But I'm not going to, I'm not going to suffer from it. I'm not going to, I'm feeling like there's more out there, and there was more out there. That's where the leagues were huge to go into. So more league racing was the direction I went into. SRL and all that stuff there, and become, I think, was a better racer. I still did officials. I didn't just stop doing that. I still wanted to run officials because of content and all that stuff there, but still focused heavily on touring cars for pretty much all of 2023. Predominantly, that was the decision. And 22 to 23, pretty much 2 years of touring cars. There was other things thrown in there, but there wasn't the commitment level. There wasn't the thing of like, I'm going to race all of these cars on that kind of regular basis, because don't need to, really, not for the content anyway. So yeah, that's that's kind of where you got to. I mean, I jumped up to at the end of the touring car season. Ironically, I stopped doing touring cars in depth. I still do them. I still do league racing. Still race with the same groups of guys who are great to race with, who are great to feel with. Feel with? That's not very weird. To film with and race with, and But when they did the split between sports car and formula ratings and iRacing, instead of just tin tops, ovals, road, ovals, oval dirt, and dirt. The other split sports car to formula ratings. That's when I made a decision to go, okay, I don't need to worry about that as much. Or I can focus on other things and do those other things, which is formula cars, etc., make a little bit more different content based around that, and not worry about the impact of said system. Joys of Coventry. Yeah, and that's an important thing to think about. Is if you start dabbling in other series, is it going to affect you? Ultimately, if I affect my iRating, someone else is going to come along and race with us anyway. So, I mean, that happened to me the other day in a touring car race where I haven't raced for a while. few hits on my safety rating because of other races, but ultimately, well, safety rating and I rating, but ultimately it didn't actually affect me too much. Still racing top speed, it still had the same performance. So yeah, it's all about being just sensible. Excuse me. Yeah, don't be afraid to try something new if the opportunity just presents itself. That's what would be a good sensible thing to say. Excuse me. So, iRacing, it's all a number. Safety rating, it's a number. But in order to focus on a series and become good at that series, that's what you probably should do, is really put the time into a series to learn it, understand it. Because if you don't understand it, you won't get the most out of it. I won't say understand it. I'm not, I wouldn't say to people, you have to understand that car, every little switch, every little bit of grip, everything related to that. You're not going to understand that in minutes, in days. That takes a season or 2 seasons or 3 seasons. There's a guy who we race with, our name drop, guys, Cooper. He went into touring cars, don't know a thing about it, and he's quicker than me on certain tracks now because he took the time to physically learn it and take that time to really get out of a comfort zone and understand the car, how it operates. Because if you understand it, you'll get the most out of it. And that's time. That's the time sink that it comes with that. And that's the quirks of it, the quirks of sim racing. The similarities with real world racing are definitely there because some people, I say not some people, but to get better at one, you need to understand the other one as well, because that's massively important. And obviously, people can't just rock up to real world racing and expect to be fast. It's yeah, it has to be done a particular way. Interestingly, it's very off topic for the podcast, but if you watch us on YouTube, I think we're flying over Coventry, and there's a big brown streak across the map, which we're just flying over now. That's the HS2 construction, which is now mapped in Flight Simulator. Interesting. Did not expect to see that on there. Strangely. Everyone, what we're doing, we're just flying around. Yes, we are. This is the backdrop to the podcast. Trying to be as simmy as possible, because it's something different. And it also gives me a chance to talk about sim racing without having to worry about sim racing at the same time. Because that's, never fun, they say. I mean, guess where we're flying to? It'll be a 10 out of 10 on the podcast. Not that it'll be a live one. We might do a live podcast one day as well. Anyways, we've waffled enough. We've waffled enough about my broad kind of introduction into that. Kind of to bring it to a close. We'll bring it to a close by flying to Silverstone and then landing somewhere. Well, attempting to land somewhere, because that's one thing. Is why the channel and why streaming? It's a question people have asked me in real world. I say real world, face to face. People I know physically go, well, why do you stream? I don't actually know. There are people like Jimmy Broadbent, Jardier, Emre, Dave Campbell, who I just watched in my own time on the streaming side because they were fun to watch. And I thought, I wouldn't mind a piece of that. Well, sim racing as well. And I thought, yeah, I wouldn't mind a piece of that. This looks like fun. What do I have to do that? Well, as it turns out, an awful fucking lot. You can't just rock up and, be the best. You can't just rock up and stream and understand and just, I'm trying to explain this in a way that's easy to explain. Streaming's about having something different. I don't have that something different. I never have done. Because that's not my cup of tea, and it's finding a niche. So my idea of doing something different was actually based on Dan Suzuki. And I remember sitting there brainstorming different people who streamed. Dan Suzuki struck me as a streamer that was quite interesting because he was technically a little bit different. He brought a very technical aspect to the sim. A very technical aspect to the sim. And how it was filmed and how crisp it looked and just how it worked. And I remember looking at it going, yeah, I want to do that. And so once you learn the basic stream, how to set up a stream and all that kind of stuff, I was using Streamlabs OBS because apparently it was easy when I found out they were ripping OBS off in the same year. Once you really work out that OBS kind of thing and how to be powerful in it, you can do a lot. So I tried to devise a way of doing things a little bit differently. So I did. Moving cameras. This was definitely Dan Suzuki inspired transition. Just because to have a moving camera, I say moving. My camera wasn't moving. His was, but I used different cameras which moved around the screen in different positions, which made it look a lot nicer. So little things like that, little things that were different, which we didn't see in a sim racing stream, that grabbed people's attention. I think it did work. It was something very different. I think people kind of understood what I was trying to achieve, which is always hard, and convey that. Because there's one thing having something different, but making people understand why you're doing it different is important. There's one thing doing it. Oh, there's another thing making it work. Okay, so yeah, getting towards the end of this podcast. Hopefully it's been enjoyable. I mean, it's probably not going to be enjoyable because it's not been full of funny, witty stuff. It's been a bit more serious. I mean, just one thing about Just an Average Sim Racer and the community of the average racers, the tarts. The average racing team is what we're known as on track now. It's generally become the thing. Really became a team. Beginning of 2023. I remember chatting with Jason. Jason's only a kid, but it's a kid who's probably understood iRacing then probably better than I did, to be honest, to a degree. But I knew of these things called special events, but I didn't really know how to do them, what they consisted of, or anything of the sort. They were very new to me. So it was all about just kind of learning from people around me and people who wanted to race. And Jason said to me, do we do a Daytona 24 hours? And I remember thinking, now I had heard of these races, I'd seen them streamed and all that stuff, and I thought, they're always a bit outside of my window. I've got a young family, I work stupid hours sometimes, and I'm thinking it's probably not the most practical, to be honest. But then looking at it, thinking, do you know what, you probably could make it work. If I get enough people together, I think we can make this work. So I put out a call, a bat signal as such on Reddit and the forums on iRacing, and pulled together a motley crew of a guy I worked with at the time. And we cobbled together a team to race the Daytona 24 hours in a GTP when it was just released, the BMW M Series VC, I don't know what it was called, the GTP BMW, the first one they released on iRacing. Because it was a novelty. It was something good. We thought, well, we can do this. We've got this. We can make this work. Wow, that was a baptism of fire. We survived. We actually finished the race and did more. And then we should just get more people. We meet more people out on track. More people get to know you, talk about your stream, all that kind of stuff. Dermot, who is a friend of the channel, has his own racing team. We thought we've done one, we could do others. So the average racing team, just an average sim racer team, became a thing. And now we do every single special event pretty much, and others outside of the iRacing official sphere, and go absolutely mad of it. And it became a really good community. And it is, I say it is a really good community that people want to enjoy and want to be around and want to race together, you know. And it goes from last year when we put out 4 teams for the Petit Le Mans, which is a 10-hour race at the end of 2023, the end of our first year, to having 4 teams racing, and that with three to 4 drivers in each team, which is a healthy event. But the one thing that was missing was a podium. Yeah, we'd done most of them that year. We'd done Daytona, we'd done Spa, we'd done Watkins Glen. You know, we'd done most of the big events that we could possibly do. But the one thing we never quite got was a podium through other people crashing into us. But we'll save that for another podcast, what happens in 2024. But that was how the average racing team got formed when it became the average racing team for TART. Because that's where it wanted to be, and that's how it's become. And it was a group of guys who never normally race cars that we race, coming together and racing those cars and learning new cars and practicing new cars. I would never have said this time last year and the year before last I was driving an LMP2 car, because I wouldn't have been. I absolutely would not have been driving an LMP2 car. Because that wasn't what I was interested in doing. But actually, and other drivers who come in from different series into your domain, you actually go, do you know what? That was actually a good shout. That was bringing in a new concept into the channel, into a new concept into the community. And it is. And that's yeah. And if you don't have that, openness and ability for someone to turn around and go, yeah, let's do that, then you're not going to do that. That's the other thing. You're not going to have that mentality to allow people to bring new ideas and new feeling behind it, because you're just not. All right. So what we're going to do, we're going to bring this podcast to an end very shortly. We're going to try something on the old flight sim here, and run from there, really. There's lots of going on in the background on this particular sim that you can't see. Because why the devil not? Looking for something in particular. There it is. Ironically, this is as we say, go full circle to finish off with. Is my home kind of area, Silverstone, as we've just flown over, not far from the ancestral family home, where the family hails from, all those bits and bobs. So I think I might actually. Do you want to come into Cradfield or? Sorry, let's say I'm not talking about the flight sim side of it, but I'm actually going to now, because I want to. Main reason why is that I only discovered Cranfield not that long ago. And it's apparently the only university in the UK that has a working airport. So we're going to try and land there, Cranfield, which is off to our 11 o'clock. So it's going to tell us to go around the field. So Code Forward is podcasts. They're going to be, as a reflection of the week, a reflection of what's coming, a reflection of what's coming up, a prediction of what's coming up, any other information that happens to come up on the sim racing kind of news and channels. I'll talk a little about real world racing, if anyone wanted to, and all of that kind of stuff. And just generally have a bit of a laugh and a chat with the guys. And it may not even be a thing, but the idea is not to do it when we're sim racing. So we might be doing a joint flight in flight sim, for example. We might be doing a convoy in truck sim, which definitely need to go and sort of out. So yeah, all sorts of stuff that we'll try and do to make it a little bit different, make it a little bit more easy on the eye candy. As we get uploaded to YouTube, I'll try and upload one to Thingamajiggy. Maybe Spotify, maybe Plex podcasts, Apple podcasts, all those kind of things. Because it might make a difference someone's day if someone's just starting out on iRacing. This first episode might just be a taste of the things to come, a taste of things that people want to learn and don't understand about the sim, and how to progress in the sim as well, and what to focus on, and how to focus on something. There's more to it than just picking a car and going with it that you enjoy. You've got to think about, actually, is this the right thing for me at that particular moment? One thing I'll always say, actually, about any sim is don't necessarily assume you can use a controller. When I say controller, I mean an Xbox controller, PS1 controller. They're not suitable for high-end sims. Things like Forza, absolutely all of that stuff, without a doubt. But anything else, I would say definitely not. Okay. So low end wheels, absolutely fine. Something that gives you a great degree of fidelity on the input is definite. Just if you do want to come along and join the community, obviously it's an open community. Our racing one is. It's not about anyone else. That it's not a closed thing. I encourage as many people as possible to join the Discord. Come and have a race with us. Come and drive us. Yes, I'll talk about touring cars a lot. I will race the touring cars a lot, but it's not about the touring cars. We'll race other stuff next season. Season 4, which is the final one of 2024. It's a 13-week season as well. I'll be racing Porsche Cups. So kind of the last 3 seasons we've done a theme for the Tuesday night stream. Last season was LMP Freeze, which I enjoyed eventually. Once I got the hang of them. This season was it's called Topless Tuesday because we did Super Formula Lights, which I'd encourage everyone to drive. And I will might still dabble in that occasionally. Never fast. But I enjoyed them because they were good fun. That's there's always the American lads. So a couple of American lads doing NASCAR. There's a couple of American lads doing IMSA and other similar series. There's guys running V8 supercars. Obviously, we have the obligatory resident Aussie in the team. We've got it's mainly British space, but there's probably more Brits. Well, there's a few Brits actually. There's probably not as many Brits. I mean, there's definitely a decent helping of Americans, decent helping of Brits, all doing varying different things. I think the focus very much these days is a lot. I think it's all about IMSA and GT3, but LMP2 is definitely looking popular currently. So, if any racing is your cup of tea, which I would strongly just recommend anyone to come in and join in. Oh. So, that was a recording. So we're just bombed by the wife in the production there because couldn't be in the microphone quick enough. We'll try and edit that bit out in terms of the audio. Good thing is I probably can edit the audio out in DaVinci. Be prepared for any eventuality when you stream or record or anything because that's life. And let's try and bring the podcast to the end. That's what it's all about, eh? Now the question is, can we end the podcast with a positive landing here on Flight Sim as well? Not that the people listen to it, everyone just know, because they could just say we landed. So yes, the podcast will probably go out on a number of hopefully different channels, different places to pop it and the like, and everyone will be a winner, baby, as I say. That's definitely where I can't comment. There we go. Nice way to end the podcast with a nice smooth landing at Cranfield, which I never knew existed till the other day. There we go. So if you've enjoyed this podcast, make sure you follow for more. I say I don't know how often it's going to be a thing, because I just don't know, to be honest. And if it's more of your cup of tea, then I hope to be able to entertain more going forward. And thanks for coming along for the ride, and thanks for listening to Just Average Sim Racer. Toodaloo.